live here?
Why?
I've never been to New York. It's supposed to be a good place to party.
Party.
怎么来的 ？Visa？
不是，卡车。
那么你或许可以去领事馆办个护照，但他们有时候会当成代人。
How would you say, be my girlfriend in your language?
Jinem.
So if a guy likes a girl, he goes like, Jinem, and then she knows?
What does a man do here?
He tries to show her how she makes him feel. What she does to him.
What she does to him?
She makes him believe.
In what?
O toğurluq bilməydiğanlarım köp idi. Mən toğurluq bilməydiğanlarımı köp idi.
Skinner, you okay?
Still feel like something's like coming for me, something bad.
I understand this. I don't know what will happen if they lock me up again.
If there's something that you want to do, you better do it today. You have no idea what's going to happen tomorrow.
You may suffer in this life. You struggle, you have pain, but you will have peace in the next life.
It's beautiful, but I'm living in this life now.
Welcome to the Longest Take podcast. Thank you for tuning in to the Longest Take podcast. In today's episode, we are joined by Bing Liu. Bing is an Academy Award nominated Chinese-American filmmaker, best known for his acclaimed documentary, Minding the Gap, in 2018. This year, Bing makes his narrative feature debut with Preparation for the Next Life, adapted from the novel by Atticus Lish. In Preparation for the Next Life, we follow Aisha, a Uyghur woman trained by her military father, who has migrated to New York City, where she finds herself laboring in Chinatown's underground kitchens. She fatefully encounters Skinner, a young American soldier who has just returned from 3 tours in the Middle East. While falling in love, they discover the possibility of a better life together than the ones they believed they were destined to live alone. Be sure to look out for Preparation for the Next Life this coming Friday, September 5th. Please welcome Bing Liu to today's episode. So, your previous documentary, Minding the Gap, is a very personal film for you. You know, it unflinchingly portrayed the cycle of abuse and modern masculinity. In Preparation for the Next Life, I noticed that there were elements of masculinity present as well. How would you compare and contrast both of your projects' portrayal of masculinity as a concept? Which I know, obviously, Minding the Gap, it's a very personal story, but conceptually, how would you compare and contrast how they are in both films?
Yeah, I think for Minding the Gap, much of it had to do with the ways in which I think young men process or don't process emotional articulation and communication. And I think with Preparation for the Next Life, a lot of what how masculinity kind of is gotten at is the ways in which it rears its head in a romantic relationship. I think, and I think it's true of both the female and the male characters. You know, Aisha and Skinner, played by Sabia Betiar and Fred Heckinger. You know, with Fred's character Skinner, I think he's somebody who didn't really get to have an example of a healthy relationship growing up, and he's somebody who kind of had to go at a really young age, learn to grow up really fast, and he never really got to have a childhood until he met this woman Aisha when he comes back to the States after his tours overseas. And I think for Aisha, she actually takes on this kind of form of masculine energy from her father, because her father was in the military and he instilled in her this sense of you can work through anything if you are tough enough, if you're strong enough, if you're fast enough. And I think to a certain extent, part of why she stays in this relationship with Skinner for so long, even when it turns really kind of unhealthy, is that she, because of that, this like sort of like masculine lesson that she took, which is like, well, I'm just going to fix it. I'm going to like work through it. I'm strong enough to, make it work despite, evidence to the contrary.
Right. And I think that, you portrayed that in such a great way in terms of strength. You mentioned strength, and I think that's evident when the two characters first meet. I mean, what are they doing? They're sizing each other up. They're competing. They're running. They're trying to race each other at when they're at the club, when they're drinking. It's competitive, and competitiveness is something that I think is kind of rooted in masculinity. Always trying to, it's like you're trying to win out against the other person, but it's because that idea of strength. So I think that's a really great way to portray that.
That's a really astute observation. Yeah, I think in that kind of way of thinking, it means there are winners and losers in this world, and I think, to kind of dispel that, I don't think there has to be losers in this world. If the goal is not to win, I think it opens up this whole other way of seeing how we spend our time on this earth in communion with other people and the people in our lives and the people around us. So yeah, thank you for picking up on that.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, yeah, you're the one who put it out there. So I appreciate being able to find that in something. And I'm also among those who think that there really shouldn't be this idea of winner or loser. So I'm definitely with you on that. So I appreciate films that can capture the humanity and authenticity of its characters and their emotions. With love stories such as Linklater's Before trilogy or Celine Song's Past Lives, and family dramas such as Charlotte Wells' Aftersun or Manchester by the Sea even. Preparation for the Next Life captures the plight of its characters above all else. What gravitated you towards this type of project? And were there any particular films that inspired your direction for it?
Yeah, I mean, there's the kind of greatest hits of the love stories of people of my generation, like Eternal Sunshine, was a huge inspiration. But I think there was also kind of films I saw later in my life, like Sean Baker's Takeout, I think was one of my favorite portrayals of just being an immigrant working in the restaurant industry, and the kind of cost of that to the workers. But when I was talking with the people that were my collaborators, like my cinematographer, Auntie Chung, we talked about more disparate kind of, sorry, I'm living on a very loud street.
It's okay.
You hear this?
No, I can't actually.
Music in the back. There's like loud music blasting. Yeah, but when I sat down to talk with my cinematographer, Auntie Chung, we talked about other projects like Heat, just because of the way that it looks, because I think there was a way of making this film in which we could have gone down this kind of like early Aronofsky kind of dark gritty, but I feel like I don't feel like that's true of what it feels like to go through what these characters were going through in the script that was written, in the same way that I didn't feel like skateboarding is always like just punk rock montage. Like that's not the feeling of what skateboarding is. It feels more like dancing. And so in the same way, I think what Aisha and Skinner experience once they meet each other and start getting swept up into this whirlwind of a relationship was that, yeah, I think it can feel more like Heat at times, where it's like really impressionistic, like strange bokeh, just a lot of like lens flares. I don't know. Yeah, I think there was a kind of like romanticism that I was interested in bringing into this film.
Yeah, and absolutely. And I love hearing that heat, played into that, because you wouldn't expect that as like an inspiration, right? It's a totally different type of movie. But I think, to your point, the portrayal of the city itself, I think, it's almost like an additional character. And that goes into my follow-up question, in which I mentioned that, in this film, the city of New York, the setting is almost like an additional character. And on top of that, the way that you portray different cultures is very fine-tuned. Does your documentary experience help you when portraying such things in a film? I think you have this keen eye, this attention to detail that I feel like you pick up if you do documentaries, because the documentary, you're trying to capture that, that existence essentially. And I think that, that pours over a little bit with this film.
Yeah, it was a little bit of just being able to get everybody on board. Like before we had hired anybody, I was doing some urban exploration in Flushing and just kind of getting a lay of the land and just really exploring all the layers and sub-layers of that neighborhood. And then once I got my cinematographer and production designer, Kelly McGehee, on, like I showed them, like, look, this world is already kind of so interesting and fascinating, and this is why. And then we just figured out how to, like, what they found interesting too, and we were able to kind of collaboratively kind of bring out the parts of Flushing that make it so special. I think documentaries are, at least the documentaries I make are, I feel like sometimes so much about because sometimes they're just not big sweeping narratives. So it really, the narrative really does kind of come out through the small details. And I guess that's just part of who I am in storytelling too. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I definitely feel that. And do you imagine going more towards documentaries moving forward, or did you get a taste of a film like this and now you're like, this is what I really want to focus on now?
I'll say this. I think what I love about documentaries is that it can be really scrappy. And I think there's just something kind of unique about working with people who really want to make a difference in the world. I feel like oftentimes that's, the people who are in the documentary community. But at the same time, you're like convincing people to be in the documentary all the time. And with fiction, it's like everybody's already kind of on the same page. It's like, oh, we're making a movie, both forms are really difficult to do. And I think for me, it just really comes down to, like, what do I want to say right now in the world? What do I want to spend years, kind of dedicating my life to saying? And so I have both fiction and documentary projects in development.
Oh, awesome. Awesome. Atticus Lisch's novel is an unflinching look into these characters' lives, often showing us or describing brutal situations. How do you balance the dark elements of the film with levity? We don't often get a happy ending in real life, which I'm sure you've noticed with documentaries, they're more a reflection and not a rewrite. How would you rather make films with Hollywood sensibilities, or capture the authenticity of, say, maybe not for this, but in general, a downer ending? Like, if you had the option.
I'm kind of open to, but for me, like, the reason why I want to make movies is to make a difference in the world. And I think, I'm down to try any methodology to do that. That's the fun part, I think, is like figuring out how to do that, given the context of what's happening in the world right now, what are audience appetites and what's been done recently. Those are all just sort of pathways to, well, how do you get this conversation started, and how do you move the needle a little bit in the ways in which we live our lives, and organize the kind of policies and laws and the way our society runs. Yeah.
Right. And do you think that, just based on your observations, growing up and everything, do you think that needle has been moved forward more successfully with, fiction cinema or documentaries? Because I suppose both of them incite conversations, but just personally, have you noticed either way being more successful?
I'll point to other examples of, like, you know, I think Blackfish, the documentary, did a number on the SeaWorld, you know, the SeaWorld, and you know, companies like SeaWorld. I feel like Spotlight did a number on, you know, the ways in which the Catholic Church handled cases of abuse, you know. So I think it just, again, I think if the methodology is right, I think it will make a difference. I think it's just about figuring out how. That's the hard part and the fun part. Yeah,
there's definitely, you know, there's some fun there for figuring it out. So you know, given the scope of this project and everything, what would you say have been the biggest challenges, and also what have been the most rewarding things thus far with this project specifically?
I think the biggest challenges were just, there's a kind of, in fiction filmmaking, so much of it is kind of hurry up and wait. Like, there's not much you can do in the same way that in documentary you can go film and then you can just kind of start editing, you know, you can just start doing it and you can like make it as you go along. With fiction, so much of it is dependent on the kind of business of putting together a film and kind of waiting for things to happen. And, you know, we got disrupted by the strikes, and so we were supposed to film like right when the strikes happened, and then we had to wait a little bit. And so there's a kind of indigestion, you know, that happens, that's challenging in fiction. The rewards are going to be hopefully felt, you know, very soon. I hope, you know, like, this film is about to come out, and I really hope that it goes out into the world and, you know, makes people kind of question what it means to what it means to live in a country that is one of the wealthiest in the world, and, you know, kind of is making a big decision right now about who gets to have a shot at, you know, getting at some of that wealth.
Absolutely. And, you know, I really love the way that you say that too. And I think that, you know, just based on the tenderness and everything that I experienced watching this, you know, I imagine that it's going to be felt with other audiences. But I think that's 15 minutes. I don't know if anybody has a timer here. I just want to make sure to keep you on track.
Yeah, we're good. We started at like 5 after, so if you have one last question you want to ask, then that can be it. Or if you feel that was a good place to wrap, we're happy to wrap.
Okay, so can I ask a question of just like top 5 favorite movies? Because I usually ask people I interview that, and I would love to hear what you have to say, Bing.
Recently, it's probably Waking Life, Paper Moon, Midnight Run, To Live, and Secrets and Lies.
Secrets and Lies? Who did that one?
Mike Lee.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
And Waking Life, I like that you mentioned that, because not only is it a Richard Linklater project, but it also, it's kind of like, it marries the idea of the documentary and like a fiction film, because it's really just a bunch of conversations about different concepts and ideas, and it's done almost like they're just interviews, but it's in this rotoscopic, you know, philosophical thing. So I think that's a beautiful movie to include.
I watched that film when I was 15 in my friend's basement, and I was blown away. Like, it was what made me think, like, oh, I'm making skate videos. I know how to like film and edit. What if I just do something that's not a skate video? Like, that was the first time watching that film. Yeah, it's funny you say that, because I'm pretty sure the first time I watched it, I was probably around like 15, and I think I was in someone's basement. So I think, funnily enough, that seems to be a lot of people's introduction to Waking Life. It's just one of those, you know, subtle little masterpieces that come across people. So, but awesome. And then, where do you see yourself in 5 years? I don't think that far ahead. I'm serious. I'm very one step. I think you go insane if you did. Like, at least for me, I can't think that far, because it's like, there's just, I just like to be in the moment, you know, like day by day. Yeah. Yeah,
that's fair. I can see that there could be also some anxiety with that too, trying to
100%
anticipate. Yeah. But awesome. That's all that I had today. I really appreciate being able to talk with you, Bing. Love the movie, and I can't wait to see it with other audiences.
Yeah, thank you so much. You have such thoughtful questions, so I appreciate you.
Thank you. I appreciate that.